One of the websites that I use quite a bit that I introduce to a lot of my students is musictheory.net. And I like to use this for the exercises that are at the top, the lessons and tools we might look at another time. But I want to go over just a few things related to note identification. Now, first of all, at the very top, just note that I'm doing this on an incognito window in Google Chrome on my desktop. And if you're doing this on a browser, on a computer with a mouse, then this is a really good website, and it's free to go to this website anytime. If you are going to be doing this on a smartphone or an iPad, I think I would recommend the Tenuto app. It's I think about a $3 purchase one time. I mean, we can actually check that out later. But the way you set this up and the way you play all of these exercises is exactly the same. So I want to go over note identification because I found that this is very helpful when it comes to learning your notes for treble clef, bass clef, or both. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to take me to this right away, and you're going to see a game starting basically, and shows me all of the sharps, all of the naturals, all of the flats, and it's prompting me to customize the exercise right here with this wrench. So I'm going to click on that, and I want us first to set this up as if you are a beginner, and I'm going to set this up for if you're a pianist, but obviously if you play a treble clef instrument or a bass clef instrument, or if you play viola and you have alto clef, you can modify that for yourself. So the first thing I want to do is I want to click on clefs, and you see all of these choices, including some obscure ones that we don't really use in modern music anymore. Again, the vast majority of you will be able to use treble and or bass clef. Now, if you're a pianist or if you play harp or organ, you can use the grand staff, but I'm going to encourage you not to do that because when you're a beginner, you almost get the impression that the treble clef is always on top and the bass clef is always on the bottom, but that's not true, especially as you get into more advanced music. That it's not true 100% of the time. You want to have to think about what clef you're looking at when you name the notes. So you can work on treble or bass clef, or you can do both. I'm going to set it up for both for now, but feel free to work on the one that you feel is the weakest. Okay, I'm going to click this little back arrow right here. Now that we've set that, I want to go to the treble range. Now, if you are studying piano out of most method books, the lowest note you're going to learn is the C. Now you can just grab this note, and this is what you'd have to do on a mouse. You could just pull it up, or you can use these arrows to get it to where you want to go. Like if you wanted to work on higher notes, you simply move this low note up to the high end of the staff. But if you're just getting started, you're probably middle C is your bottom note. And I usually am recommending this when you get to a high note of this second line G. So what your range is saying is that this is the lowest note you're going to be asked to name. This is the highest note you're going to be asked to name. So the further you move these notes apart, the more notes you're going to get asked. And the closer you put them together, the fewer you're going to be asked. If you're having trouble with a certain part of the staff, you should move these notes closer together. All right, we're going to click the back arrow to go to the bass clef range. And again, if you're just getting started, your low note is probably the middle C. Your high note is probably the middle C above bass clef. And your low note is this at some point, you go all the way down to second space C, but this fourth line F right between the dots is about when I start recommending that my students start using this page. Okay. Next. For the positions, it says lines and spaces. I usually leave this alone, but if you want to work on just the line notes, you can, or the space notes, you can also do that. Key signatures. If you are working on key signatures, like if you started to get into one sharp, two sharps, one flat, you can select these, and then you'll have to, over here on the game, sometimes you'll get that key signature F sharp, or F sharp, C sharp, or B flat. And then you have to choose the note that's appropriate to that. So if you see that one sharp and it looks like they're asking you for an F, you have to remember to say F sharp. Again, for beginners, we're not into key signatures yet, so this needs to be the only one, this little natural sign, that stays checked. Note names, if you have a teacher that does something other than the letters, you can change it. Alphabetical letters simply means instead of going C through B, it'll go A through G, but it's more intuitive, I think, if you keep it as this. You can also do scale degrees, which is, actually, I'm not even sure. I haven't even tried this. Scale degrees. Let's just see what that looks like. So this is, if you're only thinking about it, what is the note of the scale, you need to know what scale you're on. And I think this is, I'm just going to guess, I think this would be a lowered seventh. And that is correct. Okay. That is new for me. I'm going to come back to this. Solfège, there's different types of systems. I don't use solfège in my teaching. I do for ear training. I like to use scale degrees. But when it comes to this game, I just want to practice my letters. So I'm just going to leave that alone. That's the option that was there. Please leave the helpers off unless you're just really having a hard time with getting anything correct the first attempt. I would leave those off. Accidentals. Again, if you're not working on sharps and flats, I need to come back to here so we can get those letters back. Okay, come back to the settings. You see all of these flats and sharps, and right now it's asking me to name this note as a sharp. Well, if you haven't gotten into that yet, you need to unclick accidentals, but that's only going to get rid of them asking you this. If you want to clean up these choices here of the sharps and the flats and just get down to this middle row of letters, what you want to do is on this setting right here, it says note filter. You want to click that on, and I want to show you, as soon as I click it on, you'll see another menu pop up below it. It says notes. We're going to click on that, and we want to uncheck all the notes on the left. Those are flats. And we want to uncheck all the notes on the right. Those are sharps. Okay. We're almost done. We have 2 sections left, and this is the only one that we need to change. By default, it says that the next question will be asked after the audio. And you can change it to wait. You can change it to after animation. It tells you, what all these mean. For note identification, change it to immediately, because as I am always saying, learning your notes is not just about getting it right if you take time to think about it, but it's about speed, and I'm going to be pushing you to get as many right as you can within a certain amount of time. So at some point you can try these challenge modes. You can put a time limit on, and you can say I'm going to work on 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I think this goes all the way up to 30. Yep. You can put a question limit on. I think it goes up to 100. You can allow multiple attempts, and you want to do that if you're trying to see the same notes over and over, or you could treat it as a game, and it's right if you get it, it's wrong if you don't, but you can work on it for a certain amount of time. So these are very good once you want to start getting really good at the notes. Okay, so you can modify these as needed, but let's leave that as is, and now we're going to go back to the game and look at it. And now you see it's nice and clean. It's just the white key letters C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and it's asking me something. Now, while I've been doing this, a lot of time has gone by, and I want to start the game fresh. So I want to go to these 3 dots right here. And first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and show the timer, because it's very important to see how much time is going by as I'm answering these questions. And now I'm going to, you can reveal the answer, you can skip a question, you can show progress report. There's a lot of things that you can do. I'm going to reset the score, and I'm going to start just a little bit of this. Okay, so I'm going to get a few right off the bat. Now I'm going to get this wrong, like, oops, that's bass clef. And maybe we might do something like, I can't remember. And when you get it green, it goes on to the next question. Okay, so what I want you to shoot for is not get caught off guard by this percentage right here. This is your score of how many you're getting right and how many you're not getting right. Over here, you see number that you got right, number that you attempted. What I'm concerned with is how many did you get correct and in what amount of time. So I want to reset the score, and I'm going to do this very casually. I'm not going to rush through it, but let me reset the score. Okay, I'm just going to get about 20 of these correct. And I'm not rushing. It's just kind of see it, point to it. See it, point to it. And let's do 6 more. And you see I did that in about 30 seconds. So on a computer, you're doing very well if you get about, let's just say 35 to 40 per minute. And if you rush, you can probably do better than that if you really know your notes. Early on, you might find that you're only getting 8, 9, 10, or maybe a little more than that, maybe a little less than that. The idea is track that number and see if you can improve it. How many can you get right in a minute? Now, I want to show you a way that you can cheat on this, and I want to encourage you not to do this. If your sole goal is to ignore this percentage and to get as many right as you can possible, I never thought this was something you could do until I saw a student do this once. But you could do this, and you can just randomly press notes, and when it's right, it'll go on to the next one, and you see right there. I mean, actually, that's not super helpful because I'm still only at 10. But you'll probably get that up to about 25, 30 if you click really fast. But look at that percentage, 31%. That's definitely not good. I don't want you to worry about getting to 100. But if you're not getting at least 70, 75%, then our accuracy is really not well for the speed, or you're doing what I just did right there. Okay, so this is, again, the note identification. You can do the same thing in the Tenuto app. Your settings are here, and feel free to add to them. So once you know these notes, you might be introduced to some higher notes in treble clef. You might get up to this, what they call treble C, third space C. And then they may add D, E, F, G above that, and you may have a treble range that looks like this. And you may say, but by now I know middle C through the second line G, so let's move this up to your new notes. And then your bass clef. You're probably going to get down to this C. You might move this C up to the D above. You might move this low note down to the low G. So there's a lot of ways to play around with this. And again, when you get into key signatures, this is actually a great way of getting used to applying your key signature. But if you do that, remember that you need to take off the note filter at that point. And you also need to turn, well, no, you don't have to turn the accidentals on. It just means that you're going to be asked according to the key signature. So many ways that you can use this exercise. I would recommend that if you're working on your notes, that you make it a daily habit to work at least 5 minutes. 10 is better. And give yourself as few notes as you can to get real improvement. And remember, the goal is accuracy, of course, but it is also speed. So if you can think about it and get the right answer, get 100%, but you're only getting 9 or 10 questions right in a minute, that's not the goal. You want to be getting, again, 35, 40 questions right per minute, and with a pretty high percentage. I would say 80, 85 or above. And then you're starting to do well. Then you want to try to get that percentage up without lowering the speed. So have fun with this. And, please feel free to send me a comment or a message if you have any questions. And good luck learning your notes.